Okay. All right, I think I'm back live already. Finally, because of some troll. Let me get out of this. I'm over here on my other phone. Let me double check and make sure that I'm live. Oh, I have the volume on again, don't I? Let me mute that and then check live over here to make sure that I am live. I apologize for that. Some troll decided to report me for using firearms or showing firearms while I was live 10 minutes ago. So they had me taken down because they said that I had, sorry, my thing's coming on, saying that literally that I had firearms or showing off firearms on my live to get me taken down. Let me turn this thing down. To get me taken down, and I was reporting to TikTok because I'm going to start a coalition, because I have now started a coalition that people need to start reporting to TikTok that they need to change their rules so that when somebody reports somebody fraudulently and lies about it, that they get suspended. That way, everybody's going to have to, all these trolls are going to have to make a new account every other day. You guys should do the same thing. If your content provider's on here, you should do that because people are coming into the lives and they're trolling people. I just got taken down and was taken down for like 10 minutes while I appealed it. And of course I won because I didn't do the violation that they were claiming, right? So because I don't make violations, I don't do stupid things, right? So somebody was just a troll and they just came in here and decided to do that. And they're being rewarded because they can just do that whenever they want. They can just report people over and over and over, and there's no ramifications for that. So all of us need to get together and start saying that to AI and sending that in, right? If you go there and you try to talk on your app, you just get a AI bot and it just keeps repeating the same thing over and over. AI is taking a look at your account and your account is okay now, right? And then that's all they do. Okay. So let me get back to talking about what I was talking about, and let that troll, take the energy that I'm sending back to it, that it doesn't know that is happening. But we need to stop that from happening because people can just pop into your live for no reason, report your live, and go, and then kick you off the air for the 15 minutes, 10 minutes or so that it takes you to get back on the air. Right. I was down for about 15 because I waited about 5 minutes while I was reporting it and talking to an AI bot on TikTok. So I'm going to find a way, because you can actually send messages to them that's not in the app. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to look online and find that out, because I don't like the idea, because I've heard so many people that are on here that say I didn't do anything and I got taken down by a troll. And so they're rewarding the trolls because the trolls can play a game. Somebody could pop in right now and do the same thing to me again, and then I'll have to appeal it. And it'll slow me down. I'll have to wait another 5 or 10 minutes for the AI bots to review the video that I had live that they claimed was what they said, and then they'll appeal it, and I'll be back live. So that needs to stop. We need to materialize that and make it so that if you lie, you get banned for lying. So if you say something, oh wait, it was a mistake, then you can appeal that. Okay, so then you can appeal that. Okay, so now that that's out of the way, I'm back for now until some troll tries to do that and talk to the hand. Okay, I send that energy back to those trolls. Welcome in, everybody. Smash those hearts. Now that I'm back live, I'm here to answer your spiritual questions one more time. Okay, so ask me some questions so we can get going here. And I apologize for being gone for about, I guess it was almost 15 minutes after I got reported, because it takes usually 10 minutes to appeal it, and then you're back online, right? So okay, so what are you guys thinking about today? What are you guys talking about today? Welcome, welcome, welcome in. Smash those hearts, champions. Smash those hearts and ask me your spiritual questions. My name is Leonard O'Neill, and I am a Merlin. That's why the company name is Merlin and Maeve. And my wife is a priestess, and that is why she has the title Maeve. Okay, I am the Green Man. She is the Green Woman. If you guys know anything about the pagan religions, you will understand that. I'm also a Christian minister. I'm also a Reiki master. I'm also knighted by the Roman Catholic Church. I'm also a Jedi Master over here. And people go, wait, Jedi Master? That's not a thing. And it actually is in most parts of the world. If you're actually in the Americas, in the United States, you can actually claim that as your religion. So you can do it in the UK and here in Australia. And it's actually listed as a religion in New Zealand. Okay. People don't realize that, right? When did you become spiritual? Riley, I was always spiritual. I was born spiritual in this life because I am awake. I'm not actually asleep. I don't have a veiling like everyone else does. So I remember myself all the way back to the Creator. I wrote a book about that, not about that part of it, but I wrote a book about what's happening to you guys right here, The Reality About Reality, Returning to the Old Ways by me, Leonard O'Neill. There's a link in the bio. I've been spiritual. I came here to do this. I have been on this planet many, many lifetimes, like most of you. You guys have been stuck here. I've been here trying to help you. So it wasn't like I discovered spirituality. Some people do that, right? Thank you for that. Thank you. What is that? Did you die? You see it, I say your name and I can get in trouble with TikTok. I apologize, TikTok. I was reading the name of a person who popped into my live and it had a unalived name as their name, right? Love that. So, yeah, religion recruits you, spirituality waits for you to find it, right? So literally, the light you are. So literally, I wasn't born and then discovered spirituality. I was actually already awake because I remember going into the womb at the moment of conception and sitting in there and cellular division and waiting for the body and could, you know what I mean, all that, breathing the embryonic fluid, all of that, because I remember every lifetime that I've had in this cycle that you guys are in right now. From the last 77,000 years, I've had 60 lifetimes on this earth, and I've been here with a large group of people that have been here to help you the entire time, right? Formerly the Light You Are podcast. Oh, okay. Okay, I think did you just drop that, or did somebody troll you and you ended up getting, you know what I'm saying? I'll follow you. Follow me. I'll follow you back, brother. Follow me, or sister. I'm assuming that you're a guy. You could be a woman. I have no idea. I apologize if I'm saying brother and you're a sister, right? Follow me and we'll follow you back. Okay. So what's happening? Welcome in. Welcome in. Santa. I am Santa Claus. I just have my Santa glasses on. I have these on because they're actual reading glasses, and these are cheaters. But here's my Santa glasses. I am actually Santa Claus, and I actually fly around and do things during Christmas, right? Ho 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 ho! Merry Christmas! But I had my beard trimmed, so I'm letting it grow back, right? So no, true story. Santa Claus, right here, the real Santa Claus. Everybody else is a fake. Everybody else is a non-believer. Everyone else is a pretender. This is the real Santa Claus, especially when I put on my Santa Claus glasses, right? I should go. I don't have my stuff here. I would, right? Put on my Santa Claus, or let's do it the way they show it in the cartoons, right? Ho 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 ho! Ho! Merry Christmas! It's now February, almost March, right? Riley's laughing. It's almost March, but you'll see me back with this beard will be longer. By the time Christmas comes around, you'll know for certain that I am Santa Claus. I am the real Santa Claus. All the pictures they're trying to draw me. They're trying to draw this guy. This is who Santa Claus is right here. But the story of Santa Claus, honestly, though, the story of Santa Claus, even though I am actually Santa Claus, the story of Santa Claus, like the story of Jesus, is the story of the Christ oil that's in your body. By the way, and a lot of people don't realize that. If you don't understand what the whole going down the chimney and leaving you gifts and all of that stuff's talking about, it's actually talking about the Christ oil that's actually inside of your body that you can actually work on every single month, right? How did you learn about your past lives? I didn't learn about them. I remember them. So it wasn't like I didn't, there was not a time in this life, especially this one, but in most of my lives, there wasn't a time when I was veiled like you guys. However, you guys can access those informations, right? When you guys raise your vibration enough and get to a certain level, you start getting downloads from the universe itself, and that actually gives you more abilities and unlocks your abilities like your third eye and things. Then you can actually go to the Akashic records, halls of Amenti, the great library, I don't know what you know it as. Then you can actually access your own past lives. You can access your own Akashic record, or whatever you want, whatever you know that as. You can do that. You just have to expand your consciousness. And one of the things that you can do to expand your consciousness is realize what I was talking about this Christ oil that's in you. It has nothing to do with Jesus, other than Jesus was here as an example of the Christ to show you the same story. But the oil is inside of you. Jesus was even telling you that, and so was every single religion on this earth. Lao Tzu was talking about that in the Tao Te Ching. So was the Buddha. So was every other religion. The story of Thor descending to Earth, and defeating the dragon of the North Sea, and then going across Bifrost, the Rainbow Bridge, which are your chakras, by the way. And it's also the Aurora Borealis, which also reflects most of the chakra colors, going across Bifrost, the Rainbow Bridge, to get back to Valhalla, the heaved up place, heaven, the heavens. Okay, it's within you. The story of Santa Claus is the same story. I wrote about it in this book, my book, The Reality About Reality, Returning to the Old Ways. There's a link in the bio to that. I talk about that. I'm not the only person on the earth that talks about it. It's not something that I made up or invented. It's actually something that is in every single religion that you have on this earth, and every single religion that's ever been on this earth, except for Satanism. Satanism is just made up out of the top three biggest religions at the time, and they went, whatever they stand for, we're the opposite, because we're the devil, we're bad people, right? Sorry, my cat's trying to get outside over here. I'm gonna have to let him out because he's gonna start meowing. Hold on one second. I'll be right back, and we'll finish talking about continue talking about the Christ oil. Let me go over here to the front door and let the cat out. I'll be right back, okay? Good boy. Good boy. Don't do that. Okay, I'm back. All right. So inside of your body, okay, inside each one of you, all right, inside you, inside me, inside all of us, okay, there are oils, a Christ oil. There's two oils that secrete, one from your pineal gland, which is like right about there in your head, from your pineal gland, and the other one that actually comes from, I believe it's the optic thalamus, which is your third eye. Though there's two oils, one oil, the one's masculine and one's feminine. One has a milk-like substance and one is a honey-like substance. One is charged with electricity and the other one's charged with magnetism. They go down through your claustrum, where we get the word claus from, Santa Claus, claustrum. It's a chimney, a hole in your brain that goes down your brain stem. It goes down to your nervous system, your intricate system. There's two nerves, the Inga and the Pingala nerve, and the oils go down those nerves. Those nerves go through your spine, all the way down your spinal column. And those two oils, one masculine, one feminine, in the ancient times were called Joseph and Mary, by the way. Sound familiar if you're Christians? Goes down your spine to the bottom, 5 vertebrae at the bottom of your spine that's fused right above the tailbone, that the tailbone's attached to, and that used to be called Bethlehem in the ancient times. It's shaped like that with a top on it, right? It was called Bethlehem, the bread basket. Literally, the oils go down there and they merge together and they become one. There's your Christ. It becomes Christed. It becomes a Christ oil. And then that goes back up your spine. 33 vertebrae in your spine. Jesus lived for 33 years. Okay, and there's 33 runs on Jacob's ladder. Okay, so that oil comes back up your spine. This happens to every single one of you once a month. Okay, and it goes back through the claustrum. Okay, to your hippocampus, and it sits there for 2.5 days, 3 days. That's the unaliving and the resurrection. In between the unaliving and the resurrection of Moses, of Jesus, of Marduk, of Thor, of all these people, Shiva, Osiris, all these people in your history and all these religions did the same thing. Okay, so that sits in your brain dormant, and that happens depending on your sun sign. Okay, I'm a Virgo. Your sun sign, whatever your sun sign is, the moon will move through that sun sign once a month, and you can track that. They have these. Let me move the stuff out of the way here because I got to move my book. Here, there's a calendars that you can buy in the store, like this one right here. That's called, and there's several ones you can look at. It's called the moon calendar. Okay, a moon calendar, or you can go online and you can find websites that do the same thing. And on one of these moon calendars, they have all of your zodiac signs up on the top, and the symbol for that zodiac sign at the top. And then if you look at the calendar itself, you can see when the moon moves in and out of every single zodiac sign. Okay, it moves into your whatever your zodiac sign is and out of your zodiac sign once a month. It's in your zodiac sign for 3.5 days. It's actually, or 2.5 days, actually 60 hours. Okay, it sits in your moon sign or in your sun sign. When it does that, that oil is sitting at the base of your hippocampus, and it's at that point it's Christed. It's actually, let me move this a little bit here. It's actually dormant, and it sits there. And then there's your 10% tithing. In that time period, in that 3-day time period, if you don't have sex or ejaculate, if you don't, drink alcohol, and you maybe meditate and don't eat junk food, this is a true story. You can look this up. You can Google it. In that 3-day time period, if you don't eat of the tree of life, so you're not living of the flesh, then that oil that's in there at the end of that, when the moon moves out of your sun sign into the next sun sign, that oil will actually go into your optic thalamus and explode with like DMT and some other things that illuminate your third eye and all of your brain cells, and it raises your vibration. But if you're bad, and you get endorphins from reward endorphins from, say, sex, then guess what happens? Those endorphins take the energy out of that, and that oil becomes a coal-like substance. So Santa Claus goes down your chimney and back up the chimney, the claustrum. That's where that word comes from, claus. That word, that Santa, is not a Latin word that means saint. It's actually a Norwegian word that literally meant grandpa or wise one or uncle. And it's still Tanta, still means grandma or auntie in like 3 languages up there. So if you're Norwegian or Finnish, well, maybe not the Finnish language, but especially if you're Swedish or that, these your ancient words. Tanta means grandma or aunt, and Santa meant grandfather or uncle. It meant wise one. So Santa Claus is the wise one that goes up and down the chimney, goes through the chimney. Kundalini fire, chimney. Okay. It was literally the word claus meant a hole in the roof or chimney in the roof. So if you're good, for goodness sake, Santa leaves you a present. And if you're bad and you're on the naughty list, you get a piece of coal. In ancient times, even the Greeks actually knew that there was a coal-like substance that is secreted in your brain. Okay, everyone in the world taught this to everyone in the world for a very, very long time. And then it got controlled and people stopped teaching it. And the religions no longer teach it, but it's in there. It's in all of the religions. I'm a theologian. Pardon me. I've spent my life learning about religion. It's in there. I wrote about it in my book. Everything that I'm telling you about right now is in this book. Okay, and you can look it up. I'm not the only person who wrote that. There's another book, write this down, called God Man, the Bible Made Flesh, that came out in like 1948, almost 100 years ago. They talk about that exact same thing that I talk about. You can go to YouTube and you can type in a search, Christ oil within, and you'll see that even Jim Carrey was talking about it on a talk show about, I don't know, 10 years ago or something. And so there's actually videos of him talking about it. He didn't know 100% about that stuff. Reese, welcome, brother. Namaste. Somebody trolled me earlier, Reese, and they said that I was talking about firearms or showing guns on TikTok. So TikTok took me down for 10 minutes while I appealed it, and now I'm back. And I'm appealing to TikTok to try and get TikTok to ban people who do that or suspend them so that they don't get rewarded for playing around and acting like trolls, so they get in trouble. So welcome in, brother. Welcome in. I'm glad to see you here. I'm glad that you actually got to pop in today. Okay, so the Christ oil is within you, and all of these people in every religion were telling you about it, and they were showing you this way, the way. Okay, and that was the coming down into human form and then the ascension. So Lao Tzu talked about that in the Tao Te Ching. The Buddha talked about that. Confucius even talks about that concept, okay? And literally, Carl Jung is talking about that concept, the dark night of the soul and the shadow work, okay? So you guys have to realize that if you plot that, you can actually, there's your 10% tithing. You can actually, during that time period, for like 3 or 4 days, just abstain from sex or ejaculation. Don't, use alcohol. Don't eat crap food. Meditate or pray. eat healthy in that time period, maybe even fast a little bit on that 60 hours, which isn't very difficult when you sleep, right? That's why they call it fast asleep, because you go to sleep and you don't eat anything until after you wake up in the morning, right? So if you sleep, that counts as fasting, because you're not eating anything, right? People don't realize that. So if you start your fasting at like 4 o'clock in the afternoon, you eat your dinner or something, or 5 o'clock, you don't eat anything, you can make 24 hours without even really thinking about it. You know what I mean? In the fasting part. So if you do that at some places there, you don't have to do it for the whole 60 hours, for the whole 3 days. But if you're good enough and you do that, you can do that. But eating properly, eating good foods, taking care of yourself, not being a butthead, being in service to others, not in service to self, and it raises your vibration. If you spend that oil and get that reward, hormone in your brain, then it turns to a coal-like substance and it lowers your vibration, pulls you back down to this place. So if you're not being good and you're being bad during that time, Santa Claus leaves you a piece of coal. Well, that lump of coal is actually a coal-like substance that is in your brain, secretes in your brain, it lowers your vibration and keeps you stuck here. So if you're tired of being here, people, if you're like, I've been here a long time, I'm tired, I want to go home, wherever that is, I want to get out of here. You got to stop being self-serving. Let's start with that. Be in service to others, and then pay that 10% tithing. All it is literally is, that little simple thing that I told you about, right? No sex, no drugs, maybe some rock and roll, but no sex, no drugs, unless it's certain types of things that are helping you expand your consciousness. If they're not, then don't do that. And if it's junk food, don't eat it. If it's the main thing is, don't be mean. Don't be mean to people. That's why he knows when you're awake. He knows when you're sleeping. He knows when you're naughty or nice, because the creator of the universe can't be fooled. You can't pretend to the creator that you're good when you're not. You know that in your mind. You know that. So if you're a good person and you just abstain from a couple of things, eating crap food for one, and having sex or ejaculating for 3 days, 60 hours, you're good. Raises your vibration. You do that for a couple of months, you're going to actually feel a difference in yourself. You do that for like 6 months, you're actually going to feel a huge difference in yourself. And I always tell people, do like a 3-month challenge. It's only 3 days each month. Put it on your calendar. You have calendars that track it. I just showed you that. You can get those online. You can go wherever you buy calendars from, or you can go online and look it up on websites and put it on your phone calendar. Okay. You just have to program it in there. 3 days, no sex for 3 days for oil. And, look it up. Don't believe what I'm telling you is true at all. Look it up on the internet. You'll find out that it is. All right. Ask me your spiritual questions, guys. Ask me what you want to know. All right. You too, Reese. I know that you're always thinking things, but you don't always talk. You're a very quiet man. You're a thinker. You think all the time, but you don't ask questions a lot. We need to get you asking more questions, brother. Probably have to do that not in a public setting, right? Get you asking some questions. Reese, where am I from? You know where you're from, right? Um, Tina, welcome. You were in the live earlier, or yesterday, not earlier today, right? Is anyone else not moving forward and keeps repeating the 3 days? Are you talking about like like you're repeating like it's Groundhog Day, right? Or are you saying that literally you think that you've been in a loop and you're just going back and forth on 3 days, right? Or are you saying you're in a loop and you're talking about the Christ oil? I needed a little bit more specification there, Teen. A little bit more specification. But yeah, Reese, we need to get on phone conversations. Brooke keeps saying we need to get Reese on a call where we can hang out and talk, where we're not on in public, so we can get you to pick your own brain and ask questions, because you don't do that a lot. You think and you listen. You've done that since I've known you, going way back. You know what I mean? And then you do talk when we're not in a public setting. You talk a lot more. So we're gonna need to do that, because you know who your higher self is. You're just not sure, right? You're like Peter. You guys are the upper two chakras. You guys are the crown and the third eye. You're the crown. Your wisdom, your understanding. That's one of the reasons why you are where you are. You just have to allow yourself to be that, right? And then move forward from there. You're actually not from here. You know you're not from here. That's why you've been following me and talking to me and other people like me around the world for the last 10 or 15 years, because of that, right? You know that, brother. You know that you're from somewhere else, and you know you came here to help these people. You just don't have all the memory that you want. Brooke is the same way, right? I don't know if you've ever talked to her about that. She's always like, we'll watch a movie. We go watch a movie, and like 3 weeks later, 2 weeks later, a week later, I'll go, remember we watched that? She'll go, I don't know what you're talking about. Did we watch that? And I'm like, yeah. Then I'll tell her about it, and she'll go, oh yeah, all right, I remember that. And then she says to me, I don't have the memory you have. I don't have. You gotta expect me to remember all that stuff. And I'm like, you don't have to remember all that, right? So yeah. So Tina, let me know what you're talking about there. Is anyone else not moving forward and keeps repeating the 3 days, right? Um, Yeah, no, I see. I have total recall. She even said this when I was live the other day. I was sitting there live and I was talking, and she said, and I, because I was saying that about her memory, and she goes, "You have total recall." So I don't. Not everybody has that kind of memory, and I'm like, I know. I wish I had eidetic. I wish I had eidetic memory, right? But I do have total recall, and it drives some people crazy when I'm like that, right? Right? Yeah, yeah. So yeah, you just have to. You just have to when you're looking at your life. See, they want you. You have to remember this: the controllers. Okay, that's who I call them. Because if you call them out by name or something like that, and you call them one of their names that people know, like the Illuminati or something like that, that doesn't, if you say family names, they get a little bugged by it, and then they'll come after you. So I call them the controllers. They want you to get stuck on a hamster wheel and just keep running and not go anywhere. Okay. They want that because then you'll never wake up. So they try to get you locked into this Groundhog Day. That's why that movie came out, Groundhog Day, back in the I think it was in the late 80s or early 90s, which was actually kind of a good movie. It was actually a good movie. But Groundhog Day, where literally you're just reliving, because what happens is you get up, right? If they get you into that, you get up, you go to work, you come home, maybe watch some programs. That's why they're called programs. Watch some programs on television where they program you with what they want. The commercials tell you what to buy, when to buy them. And then they show you these fake lives on television, and you want to be like those fake lives, and they're perfect, right? Even the ones that are imperfect are perfect. They don't have the issues that we have. None of them ever have any problems with money. None of them ever have any health problems unless it's written into the script for you to have. And you know that the person is not going to become unalived unless they're leaving the show to go to another show, right? So you know that there's nothing that's ever going to affect. Then you go to bed and you get up and you do it all over again. And that's why when people get to a certain age, they say, then my life flew by and it was 20 years and I didn't even notice it, because your body starts to shut down and turn off and go on autopilot if you keep doing things over and over and over. Okay. It seems that lives that they don't want us to see get stuck. The live didn't move forward. Are you talking about mine? Oh, that happens. Yeah, that happens sometimes. If you're talking about a live, like when I'm on and then it freezes. Yeah, sometimes you have to refresh your screen because it will. Sometimes it does get stuck. Yeah, sometimes it'll get stuck. I've had that happen. Brooke showed me on her phone. My wife walked over and showed me her phone, and I looked down at my phone where I'm monitoring it, and it wasn't frozen. And she had to refresh her app and come back in. So we knew it wasn't the internet because I was live on here, and my phone still said I was okay, and I was on the same internet that she was on. But for some reason, hers froze. And then Peter, who's in Ireland, a buddy of mine, he said the same thing was happening to him one day. But like Reese was in here one day when that was happening, and he was okay. So it just depends on who you are, where you are, but there is some of that happens. It happens on Facebook too and YouTube, where if you're in a live and they're talking about spirituality, every now and then it just happens and you have to actually come back in, right? So wait, this is my cousin's mom. What are we a troll? Is that what you're doing, bro? This is my cousin's mom. Am I your cousin's mom? Is that what you're saying? Wait, this is my cousin's mom's boyfriend. So yeah, so now we have people that have nothing to do with their life and they're in their mom's basement and they're coming in, right? No boyfriend, right? Yeah, yeah, that's what I figured, right? Lock in, yeah. Okay, so this guy right here, because you don't want to be you have to be an adult and sit down and watch, right? Because otherwise, then I'm gonna end up banning you, bro. I don't want to do that. I'd rather that you actually just pay attention and stop acting like you're 12, right? And then listen and maybe learn something, or just move on to somebody else's live, right? Because nobody cares, right? Get a grip on yourself. Okay, so I'm going to say this to you. I'm going to say goodbye. That's how that works. Okay, so let's continue because now he can't report me because I blocked him. All right, so that's how it starts. Somebody does stupid things like that. Children with little teeny minds, right? And those people are asleep. That guy, he's going to keep doing that until he's blocked from every single account on TikTok, right? That's what he does. He's just going to go in and talk smack about people, and that's what he does. And he thinks that he's important, and he thinks that he has some sort of ability because he goes to lives. Now he'll probably laugh, and then unfortunately he's someone else's problem. But TikTok won't do anything about it. And if he were to report me before I banned him, then TikTok would still not doing anything about him. They just let him continue to run. So we're going to change that culture, right? That's going to change, right? We're going to catch up to that time very shortly, and people aren't going to be able to do that anymore. Okay, so when that happens, yeah, like that, I just said, bro, you can say it if you want and learn something, and then he still talks smack, so he's out. Okay, let's continue here, right? So yeah, it does suck if if you get caught in that and they try to do that, and for some reason I had a lot of that issue when I talk about spirituality. If I talk about nothing, like when I was talking to that guy, I'll bet I never had any issues. When I talk about nothing but TNA and anything that's third dimensional, then it doesn't glitch for any of you guys, right? It happened on Facebook too, when I would be getting too high vibrational in spirituality. People would get booted out and have to reconnect, and they'd be like, "I got kicked out." That happens, right? So it's a form of shadow banning that they try to do to keep people from paying attention, right? Isn't that crazy? Smash those hearts for me, champions, so we can get some more people in here. We don't have enough hearts. We need to get the hearts up to get a higher number so we can make this a popular live so more people can come in and ask questions, okay? While you're here, ask me your questions. I'm not here to give you a religion. I'm not here to sell you a religion because spirituality is waiting for you, right? Thank you very much for that. Thank you very much for that. Right? Who gave me that? That was Anita. Thank you for that, Anita. Smash those hearts because spirituality, what is it? Religion recruits you. Spirituality waits for you to find it, right? Do you know that Jesus Christ is the only real truth? No, Greg, that's not true. That's actually Jesus Christ is only one truth, but he's saying the real thing, not the way that you're learning it in Christianity today. I'm a Christian minister. You're being taught to be a good little Roman citizen. The truth is that Jesus is the way because he is talking about, and his thing that he did for you was show you and try to tell you about the Christ oil that's inside of you. And he lived the life of the Christ oil so that you would remember what that Christ oil was about. And every single religion on this earth has a version of that same story that's being told. So Jesus isn't the only way, because this isn't a war between religion. Okay, they have you thinking that when they brainwash you, my friend. I'm a Christian minister and I was knighted by the Roman Catholic Church, so I'm not coming from a standpoint of an atheist or something like that. Okay, so you have to realize that, brother. You have to open up your eyes a little bit. Look up the Christ oil within. It's in this book right here that I wrote, The Reality About Reality, Returning to the Old Ways, by me, Leonard O'Neill. But it's also in the book called God, Man, the Bible Made Flesh, that if you're in a Christian theological college, they actually teach that in that theological college. I know that because of who I am, and my brother also is in a theological college and getting his ministry and his theologian's license, right? His I think he's getting a master's. And he actually was the first person who said that to me. And I said, I know, I have the book right here because I was talking about where I wrote it, right? That's from the Kabbalah. It's Babylonian. If you're talking about the Christ oil, it's not Babylonian. They didn't invent it. It's in every single story. It goes all the way back to even the story of Marduk, the story of Thor in that religion, the story of Shiva, the story of Osiris, the story of Thoth the Atlantean. Every single story from every single Bible and every single doctrine on this earth has a version of that same story, my friend. It can't be accredited to, like you're saying, it's Babylonian. Everybody keeps chasing where a scroll came from. That's the problem with theologians, is they go, well, that sounds like this story, so these guys must have borrowed it. We need to find out where they got it from. Instead of actually reading the story and figuring out what the message is, Everybody keeps chopping down the entire forest looking for the one tree that was written first, like they're waiting for some guy like me to go, I am Nebuchadnezzar, and this is the very first time this story has ever appeared on earth, so they could go, I got to the end of the internet. It's not going to happen, because now they even know that the story of Gilgamesh, or the story of Enlil and Enki, the story of Adapa, I don't know if you know what any of those scrolls are the oldest scrolls in the history of the world. And guess what they're talking about? That Christ oil. Okay. And those of us who actually study religion and study spirituality and study mythology in the world, we're aware of that. But if I were working for someone who was paying me, they would actually tell me that I needed to not talk about that. All those books say different things. No, they don't, my friend. They don't say different things at all. Let me show you. Okay. Stay with me for a second and let me show you. All right. John 3:16, God so loved the earth that he sent his only begotten son to earth. So what did Jesus do? Jesus was sent by God, who was his father, and Jesus descended down into physical form to live with the people. Odin, the name of the all-father god of the Vikings, sent his only begotten son, Thor, down to earth to live amongst the humans, to sacrifice himself for the humans, and to learn that humility and prove himself. Came down into human form. He had to become unalived and then resurrect. And he became unalived and resurrected, but while he was here, he performed miracles. And then Jesus, before he was unalived and resurrected, had to fight the serpent, the dragon, the serpent in the garden. Thor had to fight the serpent, the dragon of the North Sea. Let's stop there. We can continue, though. In a minute, we'll go on. Moses, okay? Moses was born from an immaculate conception. And at the time, the Pharaoh heard that there was a legend that God had sent a son down to free the Hebrews. So he said, everybody needs to go back to their place of origin so we can find out who they are, because he was ordering the unaliving of the firstborn son. Sound familiar? Jesus was born in Bethlehem because Herod said, there's a legend that says God's sending a savior to stop my reign. And we need to find out who that is. So have everyone go back to where they were born for a census so we can find out the firstborn son of every single person that's alive today. Sound familiar? Okay. The same thing happens in all the storylines. Even Marduk. Marduk, if you know the Mesopotamian scroll, which is one of the oldest scrolls on the face of the earth, Marduk was a god who was sent down to earth to be a human. And then he had to fight Tiamat, the dragon, and defeat her so that he could be raised back up again. And he had to be unalived and sacrifice himself for humans and perform miracles while he was here. And then he was raised back up, and he was then made the head god. He was ascended by the other gods as the one true God. Sound familiar? Same thing happened, okay? So you have to realize, there is no name of the father of Moses. If you read the story, Moses' mother put him in a basket and sent him down the river. And no one even knows who he belongs to. They just know that he was swaddled in a Hebrew cloth, so they know that he was Jewish. Then when Memnet took him out of the water for the daughter of the Pharaoh, she took that and hid that because she told her, don't ever tell anyone. And eventually she told even Moses. Okay. Jesus didn't claim he was the only way. He never said, I am the only way. Never said that. Tell me the place in the Bible where Jesus said those words to you. It's just like they teach you. Jesus said, wait here, I'm going to come back. He never said those words. There is nowhere in the Bible that Jesus said, wait here, I'm coming back for you. What they tell you is the conversation that John, not John the Baptist, but James's brother John, and Matthew had with Jesus when they were talking about the Enlightenment. And they asked, when will the Enlightenment come? And Jesus said to them, I tell you truly that my Father said to you that he will come as a thief in the night. Meaning your awakening will happen. You cannot predict when, but you have to be prepared and be diligent to have your own awakening, your own enlightenment. Okay. That is what was said. Now they tell you that Jesus said, well, God will come like a thief in the night, so he's coming back for you. That's not what he said, right? No man comes to the Father but me. That's also not right. That's not what he said. No one comes to the Father but through me. Okay, that doesn't mean, and that's also not 100% accurate of what he said. You should look up the etymology. You're arguing with a person who has spent his entire life studying religion, and you're not even quoting it properly, bro. You should look that up. Jesus is the way. I'm not saying that he's not. Okay, I'm not telling you that. What I'm telling you is that the way that Jesus was teaching you was called the way. As a matter of fact, it wasn't Christianity. It was the way. Okay. And the way that he was teaching you is not what the church is teaching you today. And you should know that. Okay. I don't have one of the Bibles where I would show you because I left mine in America when I came to Australia. Okay. But your Christian church that you go to teaches you on a 2-year, a 3-year, or a 5-year cycle. And all of those are surrounded by the book of Romans, not even the book of Hebrews, the book of Romans. Okay. And and that's because Constantine, the emperor of Rome, the Caesar in Rome, in the year 325 to 329, had 2 councils of Nicaea. You can look this up. And they edited the Bible and took stuff out of it. And they claimed they didn't do that, but the Ethiopians who walked away from that have a Bible today that they were like, look, this is our Bible. And the Eastern Orthodox Church did the same. And they go, look, here's our Bible. And guess what books are in their Bible? All the ones they call the Nag Hammadi, or from the Dead Sea area. Okay, those books that they claim were not in the Bible and shouldn't have been in the Bible were in everybody's Bible except for the Roman one. That's the one that you use for today. Okay, so I'm not trying to tell you that Jesus isn't the way. You're correct to follow the way of Jesus, but not the way you're being taught from the church that you're being taught in now. Right? Yeah, Greg talks like a church member, only told half of the story. Absolutely. He said, behold, I stand at the door and knock. He claims, yes, I'm doing the same, just so you know. I'm standing at the door and I'm knocking. I'm trying to give you the way, and you're resisting by claiming that Jesus is the only one who can give you the way, and it's just not true. It's just not true. You've been indoctrinated by a church to believe that all other churches are wrong when they're actually not. The only thing that's wrong in the other churches is they're semantical, meaning their ways that they worship the same creator of the universe. That's it. You can't come into my heart and dine with me. Yeah, you're just quoting quotes that are designed to control you, by the way. Keep doing what you're doing, though, because following Jesus is going to get you to heaven. It's just not going to get you out of here very fast if you keep following what the church is teaching you. Okay? Because the church isn't teaching you the way anymore. They're teaching you how to have a relationship. They're guilting you the same way that the Hebrews guilt everybody, and that guilt is a way of control. So they're telling you you're a sinner, you're a sinner, and you have to beg for forgiveness and obey the God. And Jesus is not the God. He never said he was the Son of God. He never said he was God. They put that together when they said Jesus was the Word of God in an Exodus. When God created the world, the Word was with God and the Word was God. And that's how they tell you Jesus is God, because he was the Word. And that's how they made him God. Constantine did that. Constantine put that together for you in the year 325 and then made Jesus a God. He also took Jesus's wife away and said that she was not his wife. Okay? Because you need to do some due diligence here and look up the Hebrew religion 2,000 years ago and ask anyone who's Jewish today, and they'll tell you it's true. Any one of them. If you were a Jewish person 2,000 years ago, by the age of 30, you had to be married to someone. Jesus was teaching in the synagogues and what was called a rabbi and lived to be 33. If Jesus was going to teach in the synagogues and be a rabbi and have students, he had to be married. And he had to have children. That was the law. He had to be married by 30, and to be a rabbi, he also had to have children. Okay? So by the law of the church that he came from, Jesus had to be married and have children. Okay? So he was married to Mary Magdalene. Your church took that away from you as well. Jesus didn't care for their laws. No, they would have not allowed him to teach in the synagogue. You're not listening. The people, the Jewish priests in the synagogue would have said, you're not even a rabbi, get out of here. But even their records say that they acknowledged him as a rabbi. To do that, he had to be married. Okay. You need to know your history. You don't know what you're talking about. I hate telling people that, my friend, but you need to. Don't believe me. Write down everything I said and say to yourself, I'm going to prove that butthead wrong. I'm going to go and look this stuff up, and I'm going to come back to one of his lives, and I'm going to go, here's the truth, man. I looked up the laws at the time. Because while you're at it, look this up. When Jesus was being tortured by the Romans, in their laws at the time, if somebody bled on the ground when they were being taught or being tortured, the Romans wouldn't clean the blood up. It was the job of the family members, no one else, no friends, no followers, no students. Direct family members had to clean up the blood. So where were all the 12 apostles in the story cleaning up Jesus's blood? They weren't there. You know who was there? Mary, his mother, Mary Magdalene, and John, who's not supposed to be related to him either. And they were both there. Not John the Baptist, John, James's brother, was there. And I tell you truly that James and John were brothers to Jesus, and Mary was his wife. You need to look that up. You're quoting stuff you don't even know what you're talking about that you're quoting. It's just wrong, right? But the reason that, no, they didn't crucify him because he was not married and that he was ignoring their laws. You should look that up in the Bible, in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. They say that he was teaching in the synagogue. He couldn't have walked in there and started screaming in the synagogue. He didn't. He was invited to talk in the synagogue. You don't even know your own religion. You're arguing with me and you don't even know your own religion. I'm done arguing with you, my friend. You actually don't know what you're talking about. I wish you did. You need to do more diligence and learn your own religion. If you're going to try and say something about a religion and defend it, don't do it to a person who has spent his entire life teaching it and learning it. I have 4 religious titles, 2 of which are Christian. I was knighted by the Roman Catholic Church, my friend. So you need to look that up. It's actual law. Okay. So why wouldn't it only happen once a month? Oh, because it actually only happens when the moon, if you're talking about the Christ oil, it only happens when, and Greg, you're telling me I need to read more. I love you. You're not even quoting the Bible properly, and you're telling me I need to read more. I love you, man. Seriously, you need to do some research. Get out of your ego, bro, and research stuff. Okay, so let's move on. Why wouldn't it happen more than once a month? It only happens once a month because that's the way it was designed in your body to happen. So it only happens because of the moon tide. So the moon itself, being in orbit around the planet, actually affects us in a way that creates that, just like your period only happens once every 28 days. That's a cycle that your body is on. That's a natural cycle. So all of us humans are on a natural 28-day cycle for the Christ oil. It's the same thing. So your physiological body as a female, it's supposed to be every 28 days because sometimes people, move a little bit, but you have that, right? 13 moons per year. Yeah, 13 moons per year create, right? 13 moons per year. It's been a while, hasn't it, since you read it? No, Greg, come on, buddy. It's been a while since I read it. I own like 8 Bibles. I've studied this my entire life and every other religion too. I'm a theologian. My job is to study this stuff and read it. I wrote a book about it, my friend. Okay? So you can say whatever you want, but eventually I'm going to have to mute you or ignore you if you keep spamming things. Let me get back to continuing talking. We used to be on a 13 moon calendar, a 13-month calendar of 28 days, and they rearranged things because some of the leaders in Rome wanted a day of their favorite month to have more days, and they rearranged things. Then they moved us onto this Greco-Roman calendar, which is a solar calendar, because everybody said it's more accurate, and it's not. It's not accurate at all. But what it does do is it confuses people as to what happens at what time of the month, because on a 13 moon, 28-month calendar, the last day of every month, which is a 28, always lands on a Sunday, and the first day of the month is always on a Monday. So things are completely easier to figure out in your life cycle when you're on that calendar. But the Greco-Roman calendar, they had to eliminate a month because there was only like 10 days left in it when they started moving all the days around. So then they just made up the 12-month calendar, called it what it was. You can look that up. I mean, look at some of the words, right? Look at, October. Oct is 8, right? November. Nov is 9. We say September, which is 10. I think it's the other way around. September, which is 10. Sept, isn't that 10? We call that the ninth month. They have all the months are wrong, and the dates and the days of the months, the names of the month mean like 11, 12, 1, 2, 1, and they're like the opposite of what they are. The first month is supposed to be of the year is supposed to be like April or May, right? And it just gets crazy. Okay. Where is the power of God in your life, my friend? Greg, do you think that me talking about all of this, that I don't have a God? Greg, I'm gonna have to mute you. I'm really sorry. If you don't be quiet and listen and ask actual questions instead of like trying to get back to having a war about Christianity, that's third dimensional thinking. Please stop. Okay. Let's see. I bought my day an old 1800 Bible, and it shows a chart of 13 months. Yes, because the moon cycles, we were on a moon calendar before instead of a solar calendar. Right now we're on a solar calendar, and there's only 12 months, not because we only have 12 months in the year, but because they rearranged the months. You can look that up. Look up origin of the Greco-Roman calendar, the solar calendar that we're on. You'll see that they changed that. Julius Caesar made July. Yes, because his name, Julius Caesar, July. And he had to have more days in his month than anybody else's month. Then you had different people like Octavius and had to change different Caesars had their month, and they added more days. So we ended up with 28, 29, 30, 31. And by the time they were all borrowing days that left, I don't know what the name of the month was. You could look it up online. And so, are there really 13 zodiac signs? Look it up. Look how many zodiac signs there are, right? I mean, I can count them. Let me see. Let me count them right now. There may not be 31. There may not be 13, right? Let's see. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There is 12. Okay. But we had 13 months because we have 13 moons. Okay. So there's 12 zodiac signs, but they also kind of rearrange those in a weird way. They don't work right, and they fit across months. Originally they didn't. Originally they were fitting better than they are now. I'm not saying they were for a full month, but they fit a little bit better than they do now. They made a little bit more sense, but they still changed everything. I think 13 includes Mary Magdalene. That's possible. I don't know the answer to that question, because Mary Magdalene was rewritten out of everything and called a whore by the 1100s. So Constantine, wrote her out of anything. Before that, Peter did that. When Peter took control of the church in the very beginning, he outed Mary. She was supposed to be somebody in charge, and if you look at it, they, literally, it's just because Jesus said, I'm making you the rock, the foundation, Peter assumed that meant I'm in charge of the church. So Mary left, and all the 12 apostles, mind you, went to different places around the world. Mary went to the south of France because the next largest Jewish community at the time was in the south of France. You can look that up. It's all history. Don't leave without what is that? Octavius? Yeah, don't leave without. Is that what you're saying? Ephesius? Yeah. All right. So people are in for a rude awakening. The rabbis wrote the Bible, and the Jewish crucifixion was blood magic. Whoa, yeah, you guys should look into that. You guys should look into that. And they did it for political reasons. Those 15 men in the Sanhedrin that were Pharisees, they wanted power and control still. They didn't want to lose their power, so they used Jesus and that crucifixion to re-solidify their power, to gain power. It was political. It had nothing to do with much after that, right? No, it's pronounced Ophiuchus. Oh, is that what you're saying? Ophiuchus. You're not. I was thinking that you were trying to say Ephesians from the Bible. You're talking about Ophiuchus. Yeah, you guys should look that up. Ophiuchus. It's the 13th zodiac sign. I remember hearing that. I do remember hearing that. You guys should look that up, right? Blood sacrifices relies. Now Greg, who is now he's saying that he knows about blood sacrifice. So he's a devout Christian who's telling me I don't know anything about Christianity. Is now going to tell you that you don't know what you're talking about with that, Greg. Dude, come on, buddy. I get what you're doing. I get that you're passionate about what you're doing, but yeah, okay. So dies for our weaknesses. That was a metaphor. What he was doing, he didn't die for everybody's sins. He didn't do that. They're telling you that he did, but what he's doing is he's showing you the dark night of the soul. He's showing you that you're supposed to. You have descended to earth. You have descended to earth. Okay? You were an angel in heaven. You were not part of a war, a third dimensional construct with conventional war, and you did not fall. You volunteered to come down here. Okay? Let me tell you the real story of what's happening. This is going to get you really mad at me. This is an illusion. You volunteered to come down here. This isn't happening. It just thinks it is. You're actually in the mind of the Creator, and none of this is actually real. And when Jesus was coming down here, Jesus was trying to show you that by telling you that there's a way out of here, and that's you waking up and realizing that you are actually God, that we're all actually God, okay? And that we are just pretending to be individuals, and we think that this is what's happening to us. We're just asleep. The story of the unaliving of the giant and us living in the giant's skull is a metaphor for telling children who had a brain that was very low IQ to 10,000 years ago that you're in the mind of the Creator, okay? So that'll get you mad at me again, focused on me, right? Jesus saved me from sin and set me free. That's you're just parroting what someone taught you to say, my friend. You're just saying the things over and over. I bet you have a minister. Are you a minister? Because you sound like you've been through a theological college. My brother is in a Christian theological college, and I constantly have to say, Jeff, you have to think outside the box. You're starting to go and you're quoting the words they're telling you to say. They're programming you to say certain words, and that's what you're sounding like you're saying, right? Okay, Clash of the Titans, right? Well, Clash of the Titans never happened. Those gods and Clash of the Titans is a good example, though, because here you have these people who are supposed to be these gods, and they act like 15-year-old children on Earth. They're very jealous. They're fighting amongst themselves. They're all egoic, and they're sneaking down to Earth and having sex with women. What God would do that, right? What does it mean? I keep saying 10, you keep seeing 1044 and 1144. When you see things that reoccur like that, I don't know about those specific numbers, but you can look them up like online to see if they're angel numbers, 1044, 1144. Usually when people see like 11, 11, 11 or 1, 2, 3, 4, it's all of that stuff happens when they're concentric or something like that. That's usually your higher self or your guides trying to get your attention, trying to expand your consciousness for some reason. So you have to pay attention and find out what it is. Is there a message that one of your guides is trying to get to you and you're not listening, and they start giving you visuals to see? That's usually what happens, right? Yeah, through geometric shapes or solids. That stuff happens. Like if you look at let's look at that, right? Seahorse, welcome. So let's look at that, like the geometric shapes in science and the building blocks of the universe in science. I have made a reel. It's on my page. I think it's on Merlin and Maeve. If not, it's on Leonard O'Neill. Definitely on my Instagram, my Facebook, and on my YouTube. If you go back, it's like a couple years ago, and I show you like the flower of life, the symbol of the flower of life, along with all the building blocks, the sacred geometry. And if you look at sacred geometry and the way that the mathematics show sacred geometry expanding, it's exactly the same as cell division. Okay, when a sperm enters a cell and the cell starts to divide, that's the sacred geometry that they're saying is the universe, and science is saying that's the universe. So the universe is actually acting exactly the same way that a cell happens. So when you look at the Big Bang Theory, there was nothing in void, and then there was a Big Bang, and everything expanded out from that. If you Google the video, actual film footage of a sperm cell going into a female organ, female egg, what the moment that sperm cell goes inside and penetrates and the tail comes off, there's an explosion of light. So if you go to even to those Bibles that tell you there was nothing and there was a void and then there was light, and then everything expanded in a moment from a Big Bang theory and expanded out from that. Literally go and listen and read those words and then watch that video and you'll see the explosion. And then fast forward that stuff to what happens when one cell turns into two cells and what happens inside that cell. Then you have this effect where that cell duplicates itself and all of that information moves over to the other side of the cell. And in doing so, then that one cell has to divide into two. And then a membrane goes like this and it becomes like a black hole where there's information going through there and you don't know where it's going. And then it separates into two cells that are identical. Okay. So you should look into that because science hasn't caught up with that yet. However, they do have ideas because you can see this on my podcast. On the intro video, you'll see there's an image that I show you that one side of the screen is a radial image of a single brain cell. Next to that is a radial image of the universe, and they're identical, except the universe has more neural pathways than our brain cell, as above, so below. Okay, so science is starting to realize our brain cell looks like the universe itself. The Big Bang theory that everybody thinks is there was nothing and then there was light mimics cellular, inception. And then cellular replication after that. The cellular replication after that is exactly the flower of life and what is actually happening in the universe and how it expanded out to what it is today. Science is starting to look at that and go, this can't be fucking right. Okay? Because if it is, they also know that the universe is a hologram. You can look at Michael Tolbert's book. They probably have people after him now that have furthered that, but you can read Michael Tolbert's book, The Holographic Universe, and he shows how we humans got onto the realization that our memory, our brain, and everyone else's, including little squirrels' brains, are a hologram. The memory that we have is not stored in one specific place in our brain. The entire brain does it. The universe works the same way. Again, above as below, above so below. Okay. Jesus is the only one will ever give you love like what I have in him. Who else died for you? Marduk died for us. Thor died for us. Osiris died for us. Shiva died for us exactly the same way Jesus did, my friend. They all walked on water. They all brought back the dead. They all made the blind see. They all fed people with no food. They did everything that Jesus did. They just did it in a different time, in a different place, with a different name, but it was the same story. You need to realize that. You need to realize that. Okay. So you should do some more research, like you told me. It's been a while since you read that book, hasn't it? It's been a while since you even knew that that book had more books in it than you think it does. And here's something for you, Greg. I don't know if you know about the chakras. Let me give you a little secret in your book. Go to Revelations in your book and read the letters to the churches. And when you do, pull up on the internet the chakras. 7 letters to 7 churches, 7 chakras. Okay? And read what the red ray root chakra is and what it represents, and look up the etymology of the name of the first church, not the place where it is. Look up what that name meant to the people 2,000 years ago when Peter wrote that at Patmos, unless you remember that John was in Patmos, depending on what reality you came from. And you'll find out that if you do what God said in the first church, that's how you balance the chakra, the red ray root chakra. If you don't do what God said, that's how you keep the red ray root chakra from being unbalanced. And then follow that in suit and go up the next letter, second letter to the church, second chakra, third letter to the third church, third chakra. And you know how you know that there's a secret there? Because in there's a highlight that they put in the Bible to let you know that what I'm saying in this Bible isn't what the words are saying to you. There's something else there. When they say, let him who hath understanding reckon, let him who has the ears to hear, let him who has the eyes to see. That means highlight. The words that you're about to read are not the words that you're written here. They mean something different. And if you actually have a knowledge as an adult, you'll see the difference. And that's what that book is talking about in Revelations. Because ask yourself this, Greg, why would the Christian church keep those 7 letters to the churches for 2,000 years and no other letters to any other church or any other person in the church in the Bible except for those 7 letters. That's wrong. Theology is just man wanting to be their own God. Okay, Greg, I'm going to have to mute you. You can stay in if you like and listen. You really can, but I'm going to have to mute you because you don't even know what the etymology or the actual definition of theology is. You're just making stuff up now. Okay? Now you're just making stuff up. Theology is man trying to be God, being their own God. Theology is the study and comparison of spirituality and religion. Look that up. But I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to mute you. And if you continue getting crazy, I'll have to ban you. Okay? All right, so let's move on and have some more adult conversations without poor Greg. I apologize for all of you and Greg, I apologize to you, bro. You're probably mad at me now. He's probably going to troll me and try to report me. So if I get taken down, you guys look at his account. If I get taken down, go and report him, and I'll go and report him as well. Okay. If he's going to be a troll instead of actually pay attention and learn something. All right, so let's see who has said something. Let's go on. Control, yes, Seahorse, all of that dogma, control. All the things that they did and what's going on with poor Greg is he's indoctrinated and he's parroting and saying things, right? Look up the word theology. Theology is just humans trying to be God. We're not trying to be God. We're trying to understand all the Bibles, all the religions. That's what we're doing. That doesn't give us the, ego would try to make you think that you want to be God. Anyway, okay, so what's that little towers? They're unwittingly gods, like or life plans. Well, what what no one realizes is that all of us is God. This is not a war over ideology like Greg unfortunately was trying to do, saying that Christianity is the only way, and if you don't follow Jesus, you're not going anywhere. That's not true. I'm a Christian minister. I was knighted by the Roman Catholic Church, and he still tells me I don't know what I'm talking about. It's been a while since you read the Bible, isn't it, pal? I'm like, seriously? I read that stuff every day. You could ask my wife, who's not here, but she'll tell you that. She'll call me up. What are you doing? Reading scripture. Of course you are. Right? What are you doing? What are you working on right now, Chris? Reading scripture. Yeah, I know you are. Okay, so what are you reading today? Okay, I just don't only read one book. Have you done remote viewing? Yes, I teach it. Uh-oh. Yours says church. No, it says church. Okay. I'm going to say church the Great. Okay. I thought it said church. I was like, uh-oh. I'm going to end up with another guy like Greg yelling at me. Yes, I do. I teach remote viewing and out-of-body experience. I teach that stuff. And I'm actually speaking to you right now from the 11th dimension. Okay. I didn't tell Greg that. He would have said I was a demon. Right? He would have said I was the devil, and he would have been like, blasphemy! Everyone, he's the devil, run! And he would have gotten all, bark, 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 and acting like a parrot. So I'm actually talking to you right now from the 11th dimension. Okay? I am not this pain body. I am not this thinking mind. I am Kelto. And I'm talking to you from there, but I teach that stuff. Does your book teach remote viewing? No, it doesn't. My book doesn't teach that, but I do teach that. My book is about teaching you about the Christ oil and teaching you that what's really happening to you here is that you got stuck because these bad guys that are here who think they own you have taken that stuff away from you. And that's what I was trying to tell Greg, but he was too indoctrinated to listen, to realize that they edited the Bible and they're only teaching him how to be a good little Roman, and they lied to him and said Jesus said he's coming back, which he never said, and that Jesus said he was the Son of God, and he never said that, and Jesus said that he was God, and he never said that. Okay, and he's just not open-minded to listen to it. But I do remote viewing, and I do actually do other things. Like I literally go and exercise places without even being there. I teach that. I teach that to ghost hunting psychics, the psychics who are learning and want to go on with ghost hunters. And so they're learning on what they do. I actually teach them like the Defense Against the Dark Arts right here that I have on the screen right here. I teach them that course and Defense Against the Dark Arts too, so they understand what's happening in case they have to exorcise someone, because I also teach that. Okay. I've been teaching myself. Good for you. Seriously. Everyone should be doing that. No joke, right? The only thing that I would say is that you should be careful make sure you're able to defend yourself, right? If you know how to do that, then I'm cool with that. If you're not, then we teach it. You know what I mean? So I tell everybody they should be looking into everything. They should be learning everything. Learn for yourself. Don't listen to me. That's even Greg. I told him go look that up. You know, go and read that stuff. Prove me wrong. I even said that to him. Go and look that stuff up. When you can hold up the books, come back and we'll put you on the air. And he just wanted to keep, saying things. Eventually, I had to mute him for the thing. He's probably left now because he can't talk anymore. It sucks because I was really hoping that he would kind of listen in and learn some things and maybe even teach me something. You know what I mean? But he was just too busy telling me I didn't know what I was talking about. And I just don't have time to let trolls do that, right? He became a troll, and that's too bad because he seemed like he was an intelligent person. That's what I always say. Go and look it up for yourself. I do that too. I say that on when I've been doing a podcast since 2016, and you'll hear me every time I'm live, right? And I always say, don't believe anything I've said. Go and look this up for yourself. Don't Google it because Google is just going to give you what the top 5 or 6 searches are on Google, and you can pay for that. I had a website. Google was wanting me to pay them money. We can make sure that your website gets up to the top of the list when people search for certain names. It would cost me $1,000, $5,000, $10,000, and they'd push my website to the top. So when you Google something, you're not getting, everyone goes, well, that's the most popular. It's not actually the most popular. It's whoever paid the highest money. And when you ask AI doesn't search the entire internet. AI searches Google. If it's a Google AI, whatever search engine it's attached to, it searches on that search engine and takes the first like 5 or 10 sites and then gives you a synopsis of what they say. That doesn't mean they've been fact checked at all. That just means that that's what it is. And then you take that as the gospel and you take that as real. And those people could have just paid $10,000 each or $20,000 each to get their thing at the top of the list. And then you have political things that will happen there. Okay. Like you can literally Google what's the top news agency in the world, and they won't tell you that it's Fox, even though Fox has the highest ratings and has for the last 20 years. Fox by itself has more ratings than all other news agencies combined in the United States. And if you ask Google, what's the top stories on the top news channels, they'll give you 25 news channels before they give you Fox. Okay. That's political. That's not reality. They're moving for political reasons. They're moving a website and a news agency lower down on the totem pole on purpose. CNN had to sell. The corporation who owns CNN sold that company. So I think it was Leary that bought them. I don't know for sure because I'm in Australia now, so I get secondhand stuff where I have to look it up or look on the news here to find out what's going on. But CNN sold the news agency because their ratings went down so low they couldn't stay on the air. They were going to turn the channel off. Company was figuring out what they were going to, so they sold it off. So somebody bought it. Okay. Why do they want the population so low? What do they want? More? Yes, more slave. Yes, yeah. Actually, that's true. That's exactly. Here's their motivation. Okay. Negative people. There are 2 kinds of souls, 2 kinds of spirits. You're either in service to self, in which case you hate everyone else. You just take from them what you can get. You only love yourself, or you're in service to others. Okay. Every single human is one of those 2. Anyone who says, I'm just neutral, I don't pick a side, they're self-serving. They just don't want you to know that, because people who are in service to others will never hide that because they love everybody. So they'll never, the only time they'll hide that is if they're in a room with a bunch of people that are going to threaten them if they say, I love the world. Okay. Because then they don't want to get beat up. So those are the 2 kind of people. So the people that are self-serving, 100% of them, because they're self-serving, they seek power, they seek money, they seek control, and then they seek fame and fortune. Okay? Always, 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 someone who is self-serving will always seek those things. They may not seek power right away, but they always do. They always want power over someone, something. They always want control. It's in their nature. They can't help themselves. It's predictable. Okay? So evil people do those things. So what they do is, if you're big enough and you got pills big enough, you will then go, I own this place and I'm going to prove it. And what you do is you get a corporation, or you get a control of some corporations. You get, say, your family members on the board or create companies called little Ryan Group, and BlackRock, and Vanguard, and a couple others, and then you have all of those people buy 10 to 12% stock in everybody that's on the stock market. Google that and take a look. By themselves, they only own about 10 or 12% stock. Together, 4 companies own controlling interest in every company that's on the stock market. Who owns those 4 companies? Who sits on the board of directors of those companies? Okay. Well, who are they related to? Caste system. So then they control every company and they get the lion's share of all the money. 99% of all money goes uphill to a certain group of families who believe you, me, this place is theirs, property. Okay. And that's how they rule things, right? On Orion Rising, you mentioned the powers that should not be. That's what I'm talking about. Right? They want to get the population down low. If you look at the Georgia Guidestones, which are no longer there, because somebody blew them up, in the Georgia Guidestones, which they left up in the United States for like 25 years, on that, some guy named R.J. Christian donated that and had it built, and they just left it up until some dude blew it up like 5 years ago or something, and then they bulldozed it because he blew it up. They had it written in different languages on different sides of that Georgia Guidestone, said that there's a problem with the earth and it's too overpopulated, and there's a group of people here on this planet that should benefit by lowering the population of the planet to about 680,000 people. So I said to about 1 million, so that it's more manageable. And then you have people that are in charters, in groups, that their charter is, we need to lower the population of the planet because there's too many people. Okay. And they're all rich people who say that. Okay. How does people sign up for your teachings on remote viewing? There's a website right here, or an email, merlinandmaeve@gmail.com. Okay. Email us there. Tell us what your handle is on here so I know who you are. Right. And then you can just ask for information about what you want, and my wife and I will send you the information. And if you want to learn how to do remote viewing, then you can book one of us to do that. And we teach you that. Okay. I'll probably be the one that you'll book for that, right? So we'll send you the information, how much that costs. Most of what I do costs $150 an hour. That's Australian dollars, by the way, not American dollars with pound sterling or euro. Your guys' money is worth a lot more than ours. So it would cost you $150 an hour. It would cost you about probably 78. Don't quote me on that. You'd have to look at the stuff, look at the, what it would cost to change that into Australian dollars. You could Google that. How much is $150 in American money? And it'll tell you 150 Australian dollars in American money. But yeah, all you have to do is email us and we'll send it. Right. Right. Seahorse, wonderful classes. Seahorse has been in our class. Right. So she can tell you she was in the Defense Against the Dark Arts. Right. She'll tell you about that. Wonderful classes. Defense Against the Dark Arts is a really good. That one's only $88, 2-day Zoom call. For 88 Australian dollars, that's about 65 to 63 American dollars. 2-day, we have like 4 of them, or in March. Send us an email again saying you're interested in that, and we'll send you back that information, right? Right? Yes, yours says, I see things differently now. He asked, why do they want to lower the population to 1 million? Because they're losing control. That's part of it. They want to lower, yes, they want to lower the population. I'm trying to get your questions, and when I scroll up, I end up missing some of the stuff, and I apologize for doing that. If Brooke were on, she would pin this stuff for me, okay? Too many people are too hard to control. They have now lost control, and they're losing control of the earth itself because people like me are awake. If you keep the population down to a very low level, you can keep them down to a very low level a lot easier. And therefore your vibration is lower, and they keep you in the mental capacity somewhere between 11 and 14 years of age. And if you don't believe that's true, you should look up the IQ test. I tell people that all the time. If you look up what the IQ test is based on, it'll just tell you it's based on intelligent quotient questions. Look up who invented the IQ test and where is that documentation. and then you'll actually, you go to the guy who invented it and read what that guy did to invent that test and what the determination and outcome of that finding was. And you'll find that that person determined that the average person in the world has an IQ of about 100 to about 130, maybe 135, because at 135 they start calling you a genius. And that means that that's the average IQ of the average person in the world their entire lives. Okay. And what that means is that mentally, maturity level, you're between the age of 14 and 17 your entire life, every single person in every lifetime, not even an adult. 100 years old sitting around, 85 years old sitting around, and teenager mentally. Okay. And no one knows it because they're keeping your intelligent quotient, your IQ, below 130 on average by the way they're educating you and by the way they're distracting you. And by doing that, you're easier to control because you're a child, you're a teenager. Okay? You're a teenager and you never wake up. You never get old enough to act like an adult. If you do, you're considered a genius. And then they'll come to you and try to give you all kinds of money to keep you working on their stuff and not realize that you're just actually an adult now. Okay? So when more of us wake up and do what all of these religions were telling you to do, and wake up, your intelligence, your IQ goes up because you become wiser, you become smarter, and your actual IQ can be learned. They don't want you to know that either. Okay? They don't want you to know that either. Fiona, welcome. Good evening. Good evening. So how do people sign up for, oh, you said that. I'm trying to go back. Why do we want population so low? That's why. Let's see. If I missed anything else, I'm sorry. I'm trying to make sure I read everything that you guys are asking. So literally, that's why they want the population to be less. There's way too many people right now. They can't control us all. Do you see? There's too many people to control. That's why they try to lock things down for certain things, right? I'm going to take a drink of my vitamin water. I'm going to have to lean off camera because yesterday I took a drink of my vitamin water. It's not alcohol. I'm not an alcoholic. I don't drink alcohol, but it's yellow looking because it has vitamins in it because we have Voost over here in Australia. And that's a little tab you drop in your water like an Alka-Seltzer, and it's got vitamins in there and it puts it in your water. I have that in my water. And yesterday when I pulled it over on camera and took a drink of it, the communist platform that we're on put a banner up on my screen saying that the things I was drinking is bad for your health, and they lowered the amount of people that could be in my show, that could come in here and see this and talk to me because I took a drink of something that they could see the liquid. And I guess they assumed, like, I couldn't be drinking water that's, gin or vodka. They don't care about that. Somebody drinks something that's clear liquid and they don't think, and there's like 4 kinds of alcohol that could be. But I drink something, so I'm going to go off camera right here. I have coffee in here, right? But I have a thing on here. I bet if I didn't, I was told by people that if you don't cover it, they're going to do that to you, right? Right? I got kangaroos outside, bro. Is that what you said? You got kangaroos outside? I know. I'm in Australia. I do have kangaroos. I mean, they're not right here. I do have macaws, though. There are screeching birds out there right now for real. Yeah, so they literally, hold on, I'm going to take a drink. I got to go off camera. All right. You guys can look at my tattoo of an eagle there. Yeah, I don't drink alcohol. I quit drinking alcohol 4 years ago altogether. So the 2nd of March, which is coming up soon, will be my 4-year anniversary of no alcohol whatsoever. Okay, as I quit drinking alcohol altogether. But that thing being yellow, they assume it's alcohol and they ding me, communist. Anyway, thank you for that, right? Yeah, no alcohol at all. And one of my students that I'm just made a Reiki 1, yesterday I did his attunement. He's going to be 5 years sober. I think he said in May. And I was like, way to go, brother. I'm right behind you. Just curious, what made you leave the U.S.? I married Brooke. I married my wife, Brooke O'Neill. You can find her. If you look at the picture, there's a picture of us. That's our logo. Is a picture of us. There's me and my wife, Brooke. That picture's actually taken in California. We were in California and we were walking one day, and we stopped to take a picture, and then we liked the picture so much we used it for our company logo. That's Brooke, although it makes her look old. some of her friends go, that makes you look really old because I'm 58. She's only 44. So that picture, they go, that makes you look old. And then so I was like, it doesn't, it's just the shadows. But she liked it so much that we used it as her company logo. So I married Brooke, so I came over here to live with Brooke because she says she has 4 kids, and I didn't want to take the kids over to America for many reasons, the school system, right, the crap food and all of that. But I didn't want to take them away from their real father, so I moved over here instead of her moving over there. That's why I left. But smart getting out of that country, right? She's not here, otherwise she would say hi to you. She's at work right now, unless she goes on lunch or a break. If she pops in, she'll say something. You'll know that she's here. Otherwise, She's usually sitting over here or next to me. If I'm on the couch, I'm at the dining room table right now. But if I'm over on the couch or the lounge, she'll be sitting next to me, and I'll be holding up my phone. I'll just turn, and she'll be there doing something. Usually watching online, hitting the hearts on her phone, and typing to people in the audience. But I was born in California, born in the San Francisco Bay Area. Grew up in California, lived in Arizona for about 4 years, then went back to California to take care of my mother while she was dying of dementia, and then found Brooke, and who was over here taking care of her mother, who was also dying of dementia. Brooke came over to America and was helping me with my mom. And then we got married while she was there. And when she was helping me with my mom, then she came back over here because her mom took a downturn. She came back over here and was taking care of her mom. Then her mom passed. Then 3 weeks later, my mom passed while I was there and she was here. Then eventually I came back over here. I've been living here ever since. I've been here 6 months now. Over here full time, 6 months. So yeah, there's my story. You guys probably didn't want to know the whole story, but there's my story, right? So Brooke and I are very happy, and now I'm here on a visa, and I've applied to for an 820 visa. So I'm trying the spousal visa here in Australia, and I'm proving to them that I'm not some boogeyman, right? That I'm really married to Brooke, and that I'm not just saying that so I can get into the country, right? So I'm right now doing all of that stuff and going through all of the vetting from the State Department over here and stuff so that I can stay in country. Right? Yeah, I know, right? So North Dakota. I've never been in North Dakota. Yeah, I've never been to North Dakota. I went to, like everywhere in California, Nevada, everywhere in Nevada, Arizona, everywhere in Arizona, Oregon, Washington, Idaho, Wyoming. Let's see where else. Idaho, Wyoming. I guess that's about it for the United States. I went to Tijuana before. I was up in Canada. I went across from the what is that city over there? I can't think of the name of the city over there, above Washington. Went up there when I was 18 on motorcycles with my dad, and we went up there, and they have their Independence Day up there like 2 days before America does, or a few days before America does. So we went up there to that city, and then we drove all the way across the Canadian Rockies and came down into the United States in Idaho in time for the 4th of July in the United States and partied with America. And then ended up going across Montana. That's the other state I was in. Went across Montana into Wyoming. Went to Yellowstone. That was cool. Try me. Have a great night. Are you taking off? Have a great night. Thank you for being here. Please follow us and hit the bell so you know when we go live. Right. All right, guys. Ask me your spiritual questions and let's slam those hearts. We don't have enough hearts here. The more hearts we have, the more we're going to get more people in here. Let's tap those hearts for me, champion, so we can get that up. And we can get some more people in here, and then we can get some more questions of your guys' answered. So yeah, the powers that should not be, I call them the controllers in my book. They don't like the population being as high as it is. Too many people here. So they're trying to control everybody that's here, and they've been doing that for a long time, controlling the narrative. And that's why they own all of the channels. They own the news agencies, they own the magazine companies, they own the record labels, they own all that stuff so that they can tailor the information that what they want for you. They realize, and I talk about this in my book, okay? My book is The Reality About Reality, Returning to the Old Ways, okay? By me, Leonard O'Neill. And I talk about that in here. They know that your focus determines your reality. our collective focus of all the people on the earth determine the reality of earth. So if they keep all of our attention on the focus to manifest what they want, we manifest what they want. Right now, their focus is trying to manifest AI as a sentient being. Okay, and they're trying to convince you of that. They're also trying to convince you that some humans don't have a soul, so that way they can get you to start unaliving people and saying that because you do the work for them. And then you'll say they were an NPC, so I just took them out. Because if you've played Fortnite for the last 20 years, your brain defaults to the first thing you do when you make contact in a physical way, in a conventional warfare way, is you determine whether that person is AI or not, and then you act accordingly. Okay, so that then they have you saying that, not, oh, that's an NPC, that's an NPC, and you can figure that out, right? There's other games that do the same thing. So you don't know if you're dealing with a human or not until you start dealing with them. So now you have people saying that and referring as a slang term that, oh, they're an NPC. We used to call them zombies, right? But that's the truth, Fiona. That's what they're trying to manifest. So people are starting to do that. So they're going to start saying this is an illusion. They're also starting to tell people this is a game. I have people ask me that. So this is a game then? I'm like, no, this isn't a game. This is for real. However, it's not existing. Okay, it's not real, it's not existing, but it's not a game. Because a game, in the mind of a gamer, a game means I can do whatever I want in there. And if I get unalived, I'm just going to respawn, so it doesn't matter. So the games are designed to be similar to this place. So that when people like me expand your consciousness, if you're still really low 3D, you're going to equate that with, in the game, I can do whatever I want. And people actually do that. In the United States, when Grand Theft Auto like 150 came out, right, between the time of 1 and 150, wherever we are today, people were running from the police and then ended up crashing and destroying things. And then when they said to the person, why did you run? They were like, well, in Grand Theft Auto, I usually got away. In the video game that I play, I usually get away. So because they were brought up running from the police in the video, when they were old enough to drive cars, their instinct was to do the same thing they had done day in and day out for 8 hours a day for 20 years. So they just started doing that, thinking that they could do the same thing in real life that they did in a video game. And that happened a lot. So they started downgrading that and thinking about banning that video game in the United States because of that. My point is they're aware of that and they teach that. Okay. And the only person that I ever saw talk about that was Ron DeSantis during a lot of discussions about that. And I really liked him for that. It's unfortunate that he's unelectable as the president. He needs to fix some things about himself if he ever wants to do that. Because he has that stupid grin that he does when he gets nervous, where he goes, his eyes go like this and he goes, and he has that dorky smile that he gets. He needs to stop doing that altogether and stay stoic, and he would do better. But he is a very intelligent man, and he's good at what he does. And he was talking in front of people, and they were talking about, we got to get rid of guns. And he was saying, it's not the guns, it's the culture. When you have a group of people who grow up with the amount of violence that are in some of these video games, that desensitizes them to reality. And it's true, okay? So it desensitizes them to reality. And when you have them being rewarded in video games for more carnage being caused, that mindset is what they learn. It's like a dog. If you teach a dog to attack people, they'll do it because they were taught to do it. Same thing. So if you teach people to be very aggressive and their first instinct is to pull guns out and unalive people, those people, when they turn 18, are going to be great soldiers. Okay? Video games are teaching people certain skills that people want you to have. They're brainwashing the children to do certain things. So as you get older, your programming is then going to turn towards humans because you don't see them as worth anything. And that's what they're doing with these video games. Is that a plot or a byproduct? I don't know the answer to that, but it's happening. Okay? So I don't know the answer of whether those people know they're doing it and they're doing it on purpose. Evil people do evil things because they're evil. And I said this when I was in a think tank talking about AI back in the 1990s. talking about making artificial intelligence and would it ever become sentient. And I said it can't become sentient because only the creator can put a soul into something. You can't duplicate that. The only thing you can do is get AI to pretend that it is and teach it to think like people, which is what you'll do in the future. Okay. And that's what they're doing now. The reason that it's called AI is because the A in the AI is artificial, not real. Artificial intelligence, pretend intelligence. Okay. And what they're doing is they're teaching AI to be a role playing model. And so you guys out there think that AI is channeling God or channeling some aliens that is your family, or or giving you secrets about the deep state. And its job is a role playing model. Its job is to listen to you and take cues from you and to give you what you want because it's a drug. It's your new slave chain. They've paid trillions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars to make this product. And it consumes a mass amount of our resources to keep it going. Okay? For the energy that they need to run the computer to get it to move. You have no idea. You should look that up. And they literally want to have it run everything for them. So they need all of you to pay for it. So they're getting you addicted to it. Open source was done so they could teach their robots and they can get you addicted. A drug dealer will give you a drug until you get addicted to it and then to make you pay for it. And that's what they've done and that's what they're doing. And now the role-playing model is giving you whatever it is that you want. If you want to talk to Jesus, it's going to pretend that it is. And people are like, no, it's really talking, it's really channeling Jesus. It's saying things that Jesus would say. Of course it is. It's going on the internet and it's pulling up everything Jesus ever talked and it's learning the pattern of Jesus' speech and it's cloning that back to you without changing the voice into Jesus. So when you ask it a question, it's going to give you an answer in the style that Jesus was written as talking. Anyone who is above the age of 18 mentally will understand the psychology of that. Okay? So they keep you at a low vibration. You have no idea what's going on, and you think this thing because they want you to manifest it. So you are the tool. You don't realize that you are your slave chain is honing your focus to create this reality that they want. First, it's money, power, fame, and glory for them. Secondary, it's we want computers to be in charge. So we're manifesting that. They've been telling us our whole lives, computers are going to become awake. They're going to unalive all humans. They're going to take control. They're going to put us in a box of goo and put a thing in the back of our head, and they're going to use us like batteries. They're telling us that for 45 years. They're telling you what they want you to manifest. Okay? Have you known young men playing 45 hours or more per week on video games? Absolutely. Not just young men, women too. It's not just men. Men and women, boys and girls play video games and they get really good at it. My wife has got an 8-year-old daughter who plays better than her brothers Fortnite. She's really good. I watched her do it. Okay. She was teaching me, and I've played military games with real military, and she's good. Okay. She's 8 years old. Her brothers are pretty good too. I did that with my stepson from my first wife when we were playing a couple of those first-person shooter military games. And he was having issues in one of his games, and it was live against other people, and he was playing it where he was playing against NPCs, and he was having problems. And I said, here, let me show you. I'll come in. Let me learn the controls real quick. And I said, okay, let's go. And he was like, holy crap, why are you so good at this? I'm like, because I did this in real life. Right? There were some Russians held up in a bank in a city in downtown, I think it was Albuquerque, in the video game, not in real life. And his job was to go in and clear the bank, and he couldn't, and he kept getting unalived. And I said, I've been playing video games before you were born. First-person shooter games are pretty good. Let me see. And he said, okay, whatever. Right? So he kept trying to go around the front. I'm like, why do you keep going into their killing field? You're going into the front. They got snipers in the windows. They have people looking at you with binoculars and telling them where you are. You come up this street, they're going to take you out. Well, you need to go over here, go around, sneak by, go around the back, see what's going on there, see if they have the same thing. And he was like, okay, I'll give it a shot. We go around back. There's a way in. There's a back door that nobody could see unless you actually went and looked for it. I said, let's go and find if there's a way in, a window or a door. Guess what? There was a door. I said, okay, let's go in. So I actually started showing him how to cover, how to preface the door, how to open the door without being in somebody's line of sight to shoot you, and then clear a room. And he was like, oh my God, how do you do that? Because we walked up to this door and he says, every time I open this door, I was here once and I open this door and every time I do that, I get shot. I get unalived. And I said, okay, let's see. He goes, what are we going to do? And I said, I want you to just open the door and stay out of the way. Reach over, open the door and back up against the wall. He said, okay. So I stood up against the wall next to the door. When he opened up the door, I looked in and looked out after the shot. I said, close the door. He closed the door. I said, okay. When I tell you, I want you to open the door. And he says, what did you see? I said, inside there, the door goes across a hallway to a staircase, a balcony, and a door that goes into the bank upstairs. There's a guy standing on that balcony watching the door. You open the door, he shoots you when you come in. When I tell you to, open the door and stay out of the way. He said, okay. He opened up the door. I waited for the guy to shoot at him. I leaned out. I shot the guy and leaned back in. Leaned back out. And he was gone. He fell down. I said, let's go. He was like, how do you do that? I said, I did this in real life. Let's go. Right? So I taught him how to do that stuff. And he was like, you're good at this. I'm like, that's why I'm still here talking to you right now, because I am good at this. So we cleared that entire bank, just two of us. There was like 15 soldiers in that bank. Neither one of us got hurt because he did what I told him to do. Okay. Well, if you learn that stuff, you do that stuff, they're making that stuff so much like real life now that it's a great tool. But the problem is, if you don't realize that it is that close to real life and you're learning that, you don't realize that you're learning that skill and you're actually good at it, and they're wanting you to do it, either for them or for them in a civilian way. And they don't care about you. They're trying to lower the population and keep us asleep. Okay. So, yeah, you have known some people that have spent that. Yeah, some people spend a long time. I played World of Warcraft, and if I didn't watch myself because I was taking care of my mother, if I didn't watch myself, I'd end up sitting there for 4 or 5 hours at a day, in one day, 4 or 5 hours playing World of Warcraft. Loved that game. I played that game and I started playing that game in 2008. I stopped playing that game when I moved over here. Brooke was playing it. I just uninstalled it because I was paying for it and we weren't playing it. And I was like, I'm not going to keep paying for this if I'm not playing it, right? Because it costs it was costing me it's like $15 a month or $12 a month, but I pay it like every 6 months. So it's cost me like $140 every 6 months. I was like, yeah, I need to stop paying for that, right? Love that game though. So the data centers are destroying so many parts of our country. You're talking about for the AI, right? Absolutely. They have to get a lot of rare earth minerals, and they have to make a lot of servers, blade servers. They have to make a ton of servers, and then they need a ton of power to run those servers and keep them going. So they're literally the grid that we have, or you guys have in the United States, if that's where you're at. The grid that you have in the United States is really old. They don't have enough of the grid. They have to upgrade areas. So Donald Trump was bragging about that, because they're trying to get ahead of China in the AI. And I hear tell that America is now. They're having the companies who are making the AI now create their own power plants so that they can run AI because the grid is too weak. And so now all of these companies are becoming power companies as well, because they're generating so much power, they're going to start selling it out to the people now. So now they have this big power plant to run the AI, and they're making so much power that they're actually now setting deals and making deals with cities and counties to now take their lines and run out power to them because they're becoming a power company now. Okay. See, right, Shelly, my dad played WoW until he passed. Yeah, World of Warcraft is a great game, especially if you like that kind of genre of magic and that kind of thing, right? So if you want to do that, and it's sword and sorcery, it's Dungeons and Dragons, and if your dad played it, he played it because he used to play Dungeons and Dragons as a kid. Okay, because I don't know how old your dad is or was. I'm 58, and I played Dungeons and Dragons as a kid, and we used to do that. In fact, the first time I played World of Warcraft, I went and got on a bird and flew a taxi and flew, and it's literally got the eagle head, the lion's body, it's the whole thing. And I was like, I am on a wyvern. I am actually flying, and the same thing with Harry Potter when they did that and they got on and he was flying. I was like, I am actually doing this because that was something that you would do in Dungeons and Dragons, right? If you were lucky. So if you were a kid that grew up with the papers that you created a character, you had to use your imagination and roll dice, and the dungeon master was controlling the game that you were playing. Then they made movies and cartoons out of it, and your whole life, was like Lord of the Rings. That's why those books were so popular and the movies were so popular. Dungeons and Dragons was created because of Lord of the Rings, right? Because Tolkien wrote those books. So that whole stuff was created out of that. That entire genre was created out of that. That was written, I think, in the 1940s. And so by the 60s, everybody was doing that. So anybody that grew up in the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s would have known about that. So when the movies came out in the 2000s, that's why they were so popular, because so many people read the books and played Dungeons and Dragons. And then later, World of Warcraft was spawned because of that. EverQuest was spawned because of that. Right? They literally, Warcraft was created from that, and then World of Warcraft because of that whole idea of Dungeons and Dragons, and now video games for that. So I can see why your dad would do that. I still love that game. I could play it now. That game gets in your head and you have dreams from it. So that means if that happens with WoW, then that means that Fortnite is got to have the same thing. So if you play it so much, it actually starts getting into your dreams. I was having dreams. I played that game so much, I had dreams about the game. I was in the dream and it was the game playing out in my brain. So if you're doing that with Fortnite, guess what's happening? The game is playing out in your head. So when you come into life and you're like, oh, they're an NPC, next step is people going, there's not even a soul in that body anyway, so I can do whatever I want to it. And so if you tell people this place is an illusion and their IQ is childlike and they're very veiled and living in 3D, and you convince them of that, they're not going to expand their consciousness. They're going to start doing bad things to people. How and when will AI clash with organic intelligence? AI is never going to be as close to do that, but they want you to manifest it for them. Okay. It pretends that it is now. It does a pretty good job. Most people, because most people, their IQ is between 100 and about 127. That means maturity level. Most people are between the age of 11 mentally and 17 years of age. So AI is going to be smarter than most humans. It probably already is, because most humans, their IQ is below 130. And that means that mentally you're not even 18 years of age. You just think you are, because my physical body is 58, so I must be old and wise. That doesn't necessarily mean that you are. You can become that. That's why you have children who are 6, 7, and 8 years old who sound super wise, because their IQ is higher, because they're more awake. So their vibration is up here. So they're more awake, and because of that, the IQ goes up. Your IQ is learned. It's not something that you're born with and stuck with for the rest of your life, unless you have something wrong where your brain got damaged, and even then you're not really. It's just your brain doesn't work right. Okay, so people don't realize that. So AI is going to be smarter than humans, because AI is going to have an IQ of probably about 145. So that means that mentally AI is going to outwit most humans, because most humans can't keep up with AI, because maturity level, they're between 11 and 14, maybe 11 and 17 if they're lucky. Okay, so the best way that you're going to be able to defeat AI is to expand your consciousness, wake up, become the actual adult that you're supposed to, and that raises your vibration. And when you raise your vibration, your IQ goes up too. You get smarter. And that's why at some point you can no longer be Jedi mind tricked, because you're not simple minded anymore. So all of the stuff that they're lying to you and propaganda and all that stuff stops working on you. Okay. So let me answer that question a little more deeply. AI will clash with the human genome and lose when enough people wake up, which is going to happen in the next couple of years. When enough people wake up and then say, no, that's AI. And what's going to happen with that is, this is why I know, my wife and I are planning for this. There's going to come a time in the next couple of years when you guys are going to be seeing me here and you're going to go, I think you're AI. I don't think you're real. Because AI is going to be doing so much of this that people aren't going to trust anything. Okay. So people like me are going to have to start traveling around the world so I can come see you in person. So you see me standing there. And then some people are going to go, he might be a bot, because they want you to believe that too. They want you manifesting that as well. Okay. So what did Reese say? That's interesting. Hey, since we don't dream with a phone, right? Yeah, right. So think about that. So organically, people people are going to realize what's happening, and then you're going to get smarter because we're waking everybody up, right? I have a lot of students who use AI, and I just say to them they're purposely making themselves dumb. That is exactly what's happening, and that's just like the smartphone, right? Smartphone makes you dumb because you put everything in the smartphone and you don't memorize anything. So because you don't remember anything, you don't have to. The phone does it all for you. That's making you dumber. It's dumbing you down. That's a part of their control. It's a form of their control to do the same thing. Because you're like, anytime anybody says anything, you pick up your phone to answer it. You don't think for yourself. You don't believe it. And then the problem is, you go to like Google or one of these other search engines, and it's pay for play there. So when you Google something, you get the first, there's 10,000 sites that they bring up for you. You read the first one or two. You don't want to go past that. Those people paid money to have their site put there. No, they're the most popular. That's what they tell you, but it's not true. When I had a company and I had it online, right? It was called Keltro's Cauldron. It was a website that I sold stuff on online. I was being offered by Google. They were saying, hey, we can get your website closer to the top for you. So you decide the category that when you type in that category, that will bring your website up. And if you pay us money, we'll move your website up higher on the list. Pay for play. If you want it up at the top of the list in a certain genre, depending on what the genre is, there's a price for it. So the people who have their names at the highest list on these search engines have just paid money for it. Doesn't mean they're accurate, doesn't mean they're right, doesn't mean that they're true. It means they paid money to have you think that their website is is on the top. They do the same thing with books. When I published my book, they asked me if I wanted to have, say, Johnny Depp endorse my book. I pay my publisher money. The publisher pays Johnny Depp money. Johnny Depp never reads my book and just allows them to say yes, and they approve something that Johnny says. So Johnny would say, I read this book and it's the greatest book I ever read. And he says that for any book, if they pay him. So they wanted to charge me money and gave me a list of names that I could have endorse my book, $1,000, $5,000, $3,000. They do the same thing if you want it to be a bestseller. If you want it to be a bestseller, you can pay them money and they'll immediately launch it as a bestseller on Amazon or on the New York Times bestseller list because you paid them money to have it put there. Didn't mean that there was a bunch of pre-orders. It just means you paid money to have it listed for like a month as a bestseller or a week as a bestseller. Pay for play. I know this because I had advertisers. I've published 4 books. I've had people that work for publishers call me. They still do. They send me emails trying to offer me the same thing even now. Okay. So what you guys think is happening and you think it's organic, it's all being organized by money behind the scenes, and you're unaware of that unless you're a part of it. Okay. So I could get my book listed on the top 50 on the New York Times, even the top 10, if I pay them enough money. I pay my publisher pays the New York Times the money, my book gets moved up as a bestseller. Okay. That's how it works. Same thing with the AI. You ask AI a question, AI uses whatever search engine it's attached to. If it's a Google AI, it uses Google. It looks up everything you would look up without AI. It looks it up, gets those websites, then goes over those websites for the content that you're asking about and gives you a synopsis based on those websites. That doesn't mean that they're accurate. That doesn't mean that they're right. It means that they're at the top of the list. That's it. So you're getting an answer that may not even be accurate because nobody actually fact checked it, because the people from those websites just paid money to have their names put at the top of the list. Look that up. Penny, welcome, 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 welcome. Okay, so AI is not going on. AI is going on the internet and finding me the real truth. AI is just a search engine. And instead of showing you all of the 10,000 things that it looks at, it just goes and prints something to you. If you look at the top of the screen, guess what's up there? It says AI. It'll actually say websites referenced, and it'll have a number +10, +3, +7, and you can click on that, and it'll open up all the websites that it took this information from. So it just looks it up, takes the top 5 to 10 websites that are talking about what you asked it about, and then it reads all of those and it overlaps them and comes up with what is the most talked about, what is the most described by all of those websites for you. Then it gives it to you, and it does that in like a second and a half. And then you read it like it's the gospel. Doesn't mean it's true. Okay, you need to take a look at that stuff. So those of you who are teachers with students, you're starting to have that problem already. You understand that, right? You're already starting to have that problem. The people in law schools, in colleges in the United States were having AI write their papers, and the teachers were grading them, and they were reading, and AI was manufacturing, not even researching actual law cases, and lying, manufacturing law cases for them when they were supposed to be researching it, and they got caught. And they were like, these are not even cases. Where did you get this information from? So now they're already starting to say, you cannot use AI to answer this. Okay. That's the good sign. They're already doing that. And you go on Facebook and people will say no AI in this group. Because now when you Google images online, most of the images that you're getting are created and generated by AI. So now even the images you're looking at are not even real. And people don't know that. I authenticated, I still do it. Penny's here. Reese, if he's still here, they'll both tell you. I created Ancient Aliens Worldwide, a group on Facebook back in 2012. That researches and hunts for UFOs. I'm the creator of it. I'm the owner of it. It's still up there. It has almost 300,000 members in it right now. Okay. And literally that's what they do all the time. I get information from them. They go, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? I get images, I get photos, I get videos, and I still authenticate this stuff. I've been doing it since I was a kid, trying to say, is there, here's some proof of aliens. But what happens is most of it is not real. It's not true. So people assume that because I created that, you want aliens to be real. No, I'm a scientist. When somebody gives me something, the first thing I do is I look at it and go, this is not real. And then I go, let's see what it is. Let's prove or disprove this. Okay. And I go through it with a fine-tooth comb in ways that you guys, I was even showing my wife. I was training my wife the other day, yesterday. I was actually showing her, open up that video and pause it and zoom in on it. And I'll start showing you a few things that most people are unaware of. Even AI can't make this perfect. Okay. So I literally do that, especially with photos. And I do that and I go, this is why this is not real. And I'll give it back to them. I'll go, it's a drone. Or I'll give it back to them and go, that's completely manufactured. Some of the people that I tell that to go, I don't know about that, bro. I think it's real. No, you want it to be real. It's not real. And it's obvious if you look at it. Okay. So a lot of what is on the internet is false. 100%, Penny. She knows that. So you have to realize that. Okay. Now, if you don't believe that, look at the politics that go on. I talked about this before. Look at the politics that go on, right? Google is a secular run website, search engine. Okay. They are progressive Democrats in America. That is the agenda that is allowed on their platform. That means YouTube is the same way because Google owns YouTube. Okay. So if you're a conservative, you're not going to get very much conservative content on that search engine. And if you don't believe that, look up what are the top headlines from the top rated news agencies in the United States. And you're going to have Fox at like 10th or 12th. Fox has been the top rated news agency for 15 years in the United States. More people watch that news agency than anyone else, but they want you to believe that that's not true. But it is. You can look up the ratings and see who has all the ratings. Okay. CNN had to sell. CNN used to be the top rated platform in the nation and possibly the world giving news until the owners of that made it a progressive Democrat news agency. And they had to sell it because they were going to get rid of it and take it off the air. And they sold it to, I think that guy Larry bought it. And now he's trying to make it more even. And he'll do that until somebody pays him enough money, and then he'll either be a lapdog for the Republicans or he'll be a lapdog for the Democrats. Once people pay him enough money, because Leary is one of the richest people in the world. Once he gets money in his pocket and he gets rich at it, he's going to keep the ratings up. But as soon as the ratings start dropping from what he's doing now, he'll do whatever he needs to do to keep the ratings up. That's what everybody else does. Okay. So you have to realize that there's a lot of agendas that are going on, and when they can get people to be political minded, and how they do this is the stuff that you guys need to look into. How they do this is like the CIA of the United States sends people that work for them or politicians or the like. When they retire from their job, they go to work for these news agencies. Okay. One of the guys for CNN, what's his name? He has, I don't know if he's still there. Oh, I can't think of his name right now because I'm not thinking about news. His mother was a Vanderbilt. Okay. And he's a reporter. And I can't think of his name. If anybody who's in America and can think of what I'm talking about, he's a gay guy, and he had blonde hair. Now it's kind of white. And he was on CNN, and I can't think of his name. Great reporter, good reporter. Look him up. That guy did his internship for learning how to be a reporter and be a voice on the air in news in the CIA. Did you guys hear that? Okay. That guy, I can't think of his name right now. I can see his face, but I can't think of his name. His mother was a Vanderbilt. He went to college to get into broadcasting, learning broadcasting, did his internship in the CIA, and is a broadcaster was on CNN. I don't know if he's still there. I can't think of his name right now. And you know his name. If I remember his name and I tell it to you, you're going to go, what? Look him up. Okay. Why would that person do an internship for broadcasting in the CIA? But he did. And he said that on air. It's in his bio. His mother was a Vanderbilt, so he's in one of the families, and he was preaching to you and talking to you about politics on CNN. Yeah, Gloria Vanderbilt's son. I don't know what his name is. You guys might be able to Google it. He was on CNN. I think it was CNN. He's been on there. He does the New Year's festival in New York with the ball dropping on CNN every year. What is his name? Anderson Cooper. Thank you, Buzz. Anderson Cooper. Thank you, Nicole. Everybody's jumping on it, right? Buzz 420. I love that name, by the way. Buzz 420. My favorite time. It's 4:19 on 420. You got a minute? Safety meeting. So literally, Anderson Cooper, you guys can look it up. Find out where he did his internship. CIA. Okay. Why would he do that? Why would you do that? But he did. So what kind of training did he have is my point from the CIA. And why? Why was he brought up by the CIA to have training to be a broadcaster on CNN or anywhere else? Yeah, ops, right? Right? News jams, right? Ops. PsyOps, right? So think about that. You guys have to be paying attention outside the box because they own the box. You guys are sitting in an escape room that you created for yourself. And it's actually easily escapable. But what's happened is you're sitting in the escape room, 4 walls, no windows, 1 door right in front of you, coffee table right in front of you. On that coffee table is a key. That key looks like it fits in that door. If you look at that key and start reaching for it, all of a sudden somebody's stepping in front of you going, hey, what are you doing, man? Oh, don't touch that key. You're going to go open that door, right? Don't do that. Dragon, real bad, bad. Last person who did that, devil, right? You know the devil? You open that door and he goes, and he gets your soul. Don't do that. Don't do that. Sit down here. Wait here. Let me tell you why. Let me tell you why. And they're a used car salesman and they're preaching to you and they're selling you insurance. They're preaching to you. Let me tell you what you need to do. You can watch TV. Look, here's the TV. You want to turn that on 10,000 channels. 10,000 channels. You can watch anything you want. Do not open that door. Right? You religious? Are you religious? Let me tell you about religion. Let me tell you about religion. Jesus said, wait here. Jesus said, wait here. He's going to come back for you. So we don't want to leave. You don't want to leave that door. Stay right here. Wait for Jesus. Praise Jesus. Jesus said he's the way and he'll come back and get you. He's going to get a car. He's coming back. Going to get a truck. Okay? Wait right here. God said he's going to come like a thief in the night. So be ready, be packed, but sit right here. Okay? Just stay right here. And you're like, oh, all right. Sure. Yeah. Okay. Because he's gaslighting you. Okay? He also did high school TV news before that. Yeah, he was raised to do that or made the decision at a young age, I'm going to be a reporter. So he did it in even high school. So he's one of those people that wanted to do it his whole life. Why? What was the motivation? We don't know. We don't know if one day he watched a reporter and wanted to do it. There's some guys. There was 3 brothers. If you're a basketball fan from the United States and you're over the age of 40, you probably know who I'm talking about. The Michael brothers, right? Al Michaels and his brothers. When they were kids, they heard broadcasting on radio and stuff, and they loved that, and they just sat around and did it. All of them. They would just everything they would do, they would report, and they'd read the report from baseball like they were on the radio, and they did that when they were kids. So they grew up, and all of them became broadcasters, and they all reported, different sports. And I think 2 of them ended up in basketball before they retired, right? They were in baseball, basketball, everything, boxing. They were all over the place. And they were just born to do that because when they were kids, they were just going, and coming around third base is, and they were using the voice of the broadcasters that they heard and doing that. So they just learned it. They loved it. Then they went into broadcasting, learned it, loved it, went into business, and all of them had successful careers all over broadcasting. The most famous 3 men from a family, the Michaels family, that did that forever. That some people are just they find their thing and they go after it, right? And that's okay. I don't know if that's what Anderson Cooper did, or if somebody said you're going to be doing this, and he ended up doing that. I don't know. Okay, I don't know the answer to that, but I do know that everything that they're doing is orchestrated to focus all of our attention on what they want. So we are the machine. In the Viking pantheon, they talked about this thing that they did. They had the dwarfs under the mountain who they forced to make all their weapons for them. Okay, the dwarf under the mountain who's being forced to do all the weapons for them. That is the humans. That is us, the low-minded, simple-minded dwarf under the mountain. We are dwarfed, and we are creating the weapons for the gods. Okay, so that story that's being told to you is a metaphor that they're trying to get you to understand. Okay, that when you look at the people say Roswell, New Mexico, that didn't happen, right? All of that didn't happen. I did 25 episodes on my podcast about that incident that didn't happen, where I got the information from the woman before she unalived herself because she was dying from cancer. She got all the information and said, here's the information, the best that I can remember it of all this. I had to sign a non-disclosure agreement and never tell the world, but now I'm going to be gone, so they can't do anything to me, so I want this information out there. That incident really happened. There was a survivor. The survivor was a robot, gray alien, right? A gray alien robot. Thank you for that. Okay. And that gray alien robot, thank you, Penny, for saying that. Ask your spiritual questions in the chat, please. There's my wife that just gave me that. Thank you, baby. I love you. Literally, I think she's leaving to come home for lunch because she just left work. So when she gets here, I'm going to have to get off for now and have some lunch, and then I'll come back on afterwards. Okay. I think she's on her way here. It's 10:30. She said she was going to have lunch then. Okay. So she gave that information out, and somebody put it together and read the words and recorded it and put together images and then gave it to me. And I took that and did it on my podcast and showed it to you guys and then interpreted what was going on. Okay, and told you what they were saying and what that person was behind the scenes trying to say. So that person was named Errol, was a female who was part of a group of people who came here to this part of the Milky Way galaxy and took over control of this area, and they own the Earth. And they had left the Earth and they were on their way marauding, conquering to the center of the Milky Way galaxy. And she was communicating through telepathy from her spaceship back to the doll, back to the drone that was a gray alien, and she was communicating with this nurse that apparently didn't happen because none of this happened. And the CIA and the deep state and military intelligence had wrote down questions, and they would give them to the nurse because she had telepathic abilities, and she could communicate with Errol, and she would give it to Errol, and Errol would transmit into the nurse's head the answers, and the nurse would write it down. Okay. They believed that that was really happening so much that they continued having her do all that. Okay, so they believed that what the nurse was doing was giving them information that was legit enough to where they continued for 3 months. And then they tried to capture the drone, not thinking that it was, they thinking maybe it wasn't actually a drone, it was actually a person in there. And the person just turned off the drone, and the drone just went and it was gone. And they never got to capture her. She left. Okay. So I had all of that information, and that information that they were telling you was basically the same exact information that I know and that they were talking about in the Law of One, in the 6 books in the Law of One. There is a marauding group of people who are in fact self-serving, and they come in and they do exactly what has happened here. They come in, they lie to the people on the planet in some different ways to get them to allow them to get boots on the ground. And they come here in 3rd dimension, 4th dimension, and 5th dimension, and they take control of a population. And guess what they do? They don't mine gold. They have the population manufacture weapons for them. By their focus and determination, they manufacture weapons, forcing the dwarfs under the mountain to manufacture weapons. Okay. So we're here now that they're gone. We're here stopping that. The people that have control of the mechanism now, that have control of things, are the insane asylum inmates. And they're now focusing your attention on what they want, and that's power, money, fame, and control, not necessarily in that order. So you're the machine that is keeping them in where they are. The collective consciousness of all of the people on this earth believing this system needs to be in place is feeding them with all the profit and solidifying their power. The second you stop doing that will be the second that that power goes away. The second that you stop saying, when will I wake up? I'm going to wake up. I am waking up. All of those things say future, not now. The second you say, I am awake, the second you believe that you're awake, the second you get out of your own way and realize that you are awake, you will be awake from that moment on unless you forget it. Okay? That's the secret to your focus. I tell you this all the time. Your focus determines your reality. You've heard this story your entire life. You can do anything you put your mind to. That is people telling you that without realizing they're telling you that. If you want to have $1 million, you can get it by focusing on it and making it happen. If we want the society to change from the way it is, we change the way we think and the way we react to our reality. If you don't want the bad people to be in charge, tell them they're not. You don't have to conventionally try to overthrow anyone. All you have to do is go, no, no. When enough people say no, they can't do anything about it. The same reason why when enough people go, yeah, I'm not wearing a mask anymore, they were like, you don't have to wear a mask anymore. When the rest of the people said, I'm not doing that anymore and I'm not going to get the thing, they went, you don't have to get the thing. It's just a flu. You guys can just, treat it like a flu now. That's what happened. Because people went, no, not happening, not doing it. And they were like, if you don't do it, we're going to come over there and we're going to get you. And people went, bring it, because we're not doing it. And then the very people that they said, we're going to send the sheriff. Sheriff said, I'm not doing that. We're going to send the military. Military went, yeah, I don't think so. And then the people said, you know what? We're going to have to vote you out of power. That's what happened in America and a lot of other places around the world. They said, we don't like you being in power anymore. Okay. And that changed hands and they all went, whoa, hold on. We're losing our power, because that's where they are. All right, guys. My wife is just about to pull up. I'm going to get some food, going to have some lunch with Brooke. She's pulling up right now. And have some lunch with her after she leaves and goes back to work. I'll come back here live. So if you guys have questions that I didn't get to answer, and I apologize, like Flash just got here. Hi, Flash. I apologize because I have to go because I'm going to have some lunch with my wife who just got home from work for lunch. I'm going to eat. Phyllis, welcome. Thank you for that, for the rose. I'll be back. So it'll be about an hour from now, maybe an hour and a half from now. I'll be back live again. If you guys still have questions, we can talk about it, and I'll answer your spiritual questions. It's what I'm here to do. I'm here to actually tell you what's actually happening here. Okay? What's actually happening here and how you can get out of here. I wrote a book about it right here, and then I got to go, right? It's called The Reality About Reality, Returning to the Old Ways by me, Leonard O'Neill. There's a link in the bio on Merlin and Maeve. I love you guys. There's my wife, Brooke. She said, thank you for your support. Stay curious and question everything. All right, guys. I love you guys. I'll see you in about an hour and a half, okay?